Okay.
Well, it's that time of year again. Kevin McCluskey, Ricky Portella back here with this year's installment of Road to the Ring. Ricky, this year it's shaping up like old times. Our old nemesis, the Rocky Mountain Griffins, are there. And before we get into them, I'm going to answer the question that's on everybody's mind, and that is, what in the world is a griffin? Okay, for those of you that don't know, a griffin is this. A griffin is a fictional character devised by Lewis Carroll in the popular book Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. A griffin is an animal that has a head and talons and wings of an eagle, but the body of a lion. So if you guys can picture Ricky and I, like if something were to come down and we were to morph together into one being, we would be a griffin. Now obviously Ricky would be the tail end, he would be the lion, and up front I would be the eagle with the spread wings. So an eagle-lion type of thing, that's what we're dealing with Rocky Mountain. Rocky Mountain is coached by Jason Battle. Their colors are blue and gold, so they're going to look a lot like the Cummings Cavaliers. They come to us from obviously Rocky Mountain in Nash County in the 3A Big East Conference. And very, very similar record in the conference to us. They finished at 7-4 on the year, Ricky. And before we get into that, I wanted to touch base with you because you've been around a long time, the Western Alamance program.
Not a long time, but for a few years.
Talk about how Western Alamance and Rocky Mountain have been intertwined over the years, and what this is a rival. In playoffs, a lot of times you play teams you've never seen before, but this one they're familiar to us from years back.
Well, and if you all remember, this will be the fourth time we've played Rocky Mountain, and it started back in the fall of 05, I believe, which is the first year. It was the second year. Yeah, it was the second year we went to the state finals. Anyway. It has been a great series of games. The first game was so-so. I mean, we sort of took control in the second half. But the last two games were really, really tight games, hard-fought games. You know, again, the programs are very similar in that, you know, great athletes, great coaching, great fan base. Mm-hmm. So it's really nice. It's going to be good to renew this series with them. And it's a game that... Warrior fans, come out and watch it because it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a good one, and just like some of those games with Rocky Mountain Pass, it's going to be cold, so bundle up, and the more noise you make, the warmer you're going to get, so you need to be screaming and yelling for the Warriors. But let's talk about their record. They finished 7-4. They lost a couple of games early on. I know one was to Rose High School, which is a big powerhouse out of Greenville, 4-18, so you really can't count that against them, although you know it's a pretty lopsided score. They lost to Southwest Edgecombe, don't know anything about that. When you get into the conference, very similar to us, they had 2 losses in the conference. Those 2 losses were to the top 2 teams, and both of those losses were very close. So these are similar programs, Ricky.
Right. Well, you know, looking at their schedule and knowing a little bit about the eastern part of the state, Rose, we all know about it. They've been to the state finals several times. Southwest Edgecombe is just one of those teams in Edgecombe County, which is just east of Rocky Mountain. And they just always seem to have those hard-nosed type football players. And they're the kind of team that they put 8 people in the box and just dare you to run. And that's what, you know, Rocky Mountain is a run-type offense that we'll talk about in a little bit. And again, going into their conference, very, very similar to what Western Alamance went through this year. They lost to the top 2 teams in their conference. And they lost by 2 points, very similar to our Eastern Alamance and Northern Guilford.
Yeah, exactly.
So very similar.
And here's where it gets scary similar. And I was looking at the point score, you know, the overall on the season. On the season, we scored on a total across 11 games. We scored 34 more points than Rocky Mountain scored. However, Rocky Mountain gave up on defense 33 fewer points than Western Alamance. So we're a +1, people, +1. That's how close this one's going to be. Now, this means nothing other than speculation and talking about it. I went out and looked at the rankings. They do rankings based on statistics, who you played, strength of schedule, all that good stuff. Throw it into a computer and it comes out with numbers. Now on the rankings, Rocky Mountain in the state of North Carolina was ranked as number 102, whereas we were ranked 58th. So whatever that means, you know, the computers like us a little bit better than Rocky Mountain from that area. Talking about their team, you know, overall, Ricky kind of alluded to the fact they are a running team, no doubt about it. And Ricky, we were just talking earlier about something that actually may play into our favor. And why don't you tell the folks about that?
Well, they run the single wing, or whatever you want to call it. It's the exact same offense that Northeast Guilford runs. We played Northeast Guilford a couple of weeks ago, so one would think we have that fresh in our mind. So our practice this past week, I'm sure is going to be, we'll have mirrored how we prepared against Northeast Guilford. Now, looking at the success that Rocky Mount had versus Northeast Guilford, I hope we're going to be a lot sharper than we were against Northeast Guilford.
Yeah, well, against Northeast Guilford, defensively, we actually shut them out, except they did that. I mean, they didn't score a single offensive touchdown. It was a pick six. Now, you guys got to understand, with the wing T offense, I mentioned it in my Monday morning quarterback article, it's a thing of beauty, if you're a football purist, if it's run properly. Now, obviously, Northeast Guilford was lacking there a little bit. I expect a better execution out of Rocky Mount. So watch for a lot of misdirection, fake handoffs, guys in the backfields going this way and that way and everything else. You don't know if they're going left, right, up the middle. So it's going to be really up to our defense to be disciplined. And the way you really disrupt this is by getting penetration. Mm-hmm. If you can get penetration in there and stop some of that intricate movement in the backfield, we're going to do all right. Now, let's talk about some numbers that'll back it up. Looking at season stats, Rocky Mount averaged passing only 97 yards a game, so below 100 yards passing. Running the ball, they ran for 182 yards a game. So obviously, as Ricky pointed out, that's something we've got to watch out for. Flipping out to Western Allen, it's a little more balanced. We passed for 151 yards a game and ran for 226. So we actually ran for more yards than them. So we're a balanced team.
Kind of deceptive though, because our quarterback has a lot of those runs. He drops back, the routes are covered, and he takes off running. So that's kind of a deceptive stat.
That's an excellent point. We're going to touch on some player stats in just a minute. But before we do that, let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, they do a good job. They're going to hold their opponents down low. You noticed on the tape, and I'll let you mention that in a minute about what you saw. But as far as stats, one thing that I saw was, and I'm assuming these numbers are accurate because they're in max preps, and max preps are supposed to be accurate. They only had 15.5 sacks on the season, compared to Western Allen Man's is 41.5, which I don't know. Maybe it's the style of game they're playing down east. The teams just don't pass the ball as much. They don't have that many opportunities. But I'm looking at hey, when they do pass, we've got a good chance to get in the backfield there. So while we're still talking about defense, it's hard to tell anything from this. They've got 10 interceptions on the year. We've got 9. Doesn't mean a whole lot. But Ricky, you have watched some film, and I did too. But tell the folks what you noticed about their defense.
Well, what I noticed in the film that I watched was they like to put 8 people in the box, folks, and that means 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and they'll bring their safeties up to the line of scrimmage. I didn't particularly see how well they are with people running straight at them. What I did notice in the film is that laterally they are very, very good. I mean, they are quick to the ball. If you try to get outside the tackles, they're very quick, and they'll have 3 or 4 people making the tackles. So expect to see the Warriors stick between our big offensive linemen and keep the game between the tackles. And that really, in my opinion, it goes into our favor because we have Donovan Apple that runs the ball so well between tackles, and then we can bring in the big running back and BJ that's really big and he likes contact. And then if we do some play actions or some quarterback draws, Trey's a big kid, and he can keep it between tackles and get extra yards after contact. So it'll be interesting.
Basically, we're multi-dimensional. They're one-dimensional. We got to stop that run. But let's talk about some of these individual players. We're talking about names right now. Let's talk about for Rocky Mount, guys. Their quarterback. They've got a senior quarterback, number 18, Joshua Carter. Joshua's a fairly big guy. He's 5'11", 190, so he's got some meat on him. On the season, he's completed roughly 50% of his passes for 908 yards and 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That doesn't mean a whole lot to you until we have something to compare it to. So let's compare it to our quarterback, Trey McCollum. Trey passed for 1,662 yards. So Trey's got significantly more yardage, almost 75% more. He's doubled the number of touchdowns, 14, but also doubled the number of interceptions, 9. So basically we throw the ball more than they do, but Trey is very productive. Here's where, let me jump into the running game, and we're going to talk about what I think is the differentiating factor. Okay, for them, people to keep a watch on, junior running back number 32, Nick Bynum. Nick Bynum is going to be the bowling ball. He's 5'6", 205 pounds. So he's going to be about this big and stocky, and I'm sure he's going to pound inside the tackles. He ran for 517 yards and 10 touchdowns. So when they get in the red zone down, in the 5-yard line, he's going to get the ball. He's going to be the one they look to. And they have a sophomore running back, number 1, B.J. Sanders. ran for 437 yards, and he's also small, but he's 5'8", 165. I'm assuming he's their speed back. He's got to be their speed back. So you're looking at thunder and lightning from their perspective. Now here's what I want to talk about the differentiator. You mentioned it earlier. Not only has Trey ran or threw for 1,600 yards, 1,662 yards, Trey has ran for 1,005 yards. So you put that thread in and 12 more touchdowns. So Trey has 26 touchdowns between running and passing.
So as I hear that, you wonder, okay, are we going to try to run between the tackles, or are we just going to spread them out? Because they're probably not used to 5 wide outs the way we do from time to time. So it'll be real interesting to see the strategy that Coach Snuffer and his offense will use Friday night.
Yeah, and I hear people say that they're Warrior fans, like we're predictable. Well, we're predictable because we see ourselves every week, week in, week out. For these teams that don't see us, I think our differentiator is going to be Trey and our versatility. We have multiple weapons.
Well, you think about Rocky Mount preparing for us, and the standard is when you're playing a team, you're supposed to share the 2 previous games. So that means that Rocky Mount is going to see our Northeast Guilford and our McMichael games. Now, what are they going to see out of that? Pretty basic, because Coach Snuffer shut it down now. Are they going to be able to get a hold of some older tapes?
Yeah, they
probably so, but hopefully the bulk of what they see will be those last 2 games, which should be in our favor.
Yeah, and back to that, what they're going to see also Darius Penix, BJ, who has run for 771 yards and 14 touchdowns. Josiah's ran for 250. Don's ran for 151 in KC. Don, to me, is the interesting one because Don's missed most of the season, more than that, and now he's being brought along extremely slowly. So, and we know last year Don put up 1,200 yards and 20 touchdowns. So we know he's capable, and I'm hoping they're not prepared for him. So we've got our own thunder and lightning coming at him.
Well, and there's a reason why you've referred to him, to Donovan, as Donovan Yak.
Yeah.
Because of yards after that first contact. And that would kind of play into that 8 guys in the box. If Donovan can break a couple of those tackles and loosen up that defense a little bit, then we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, and on their defense, people, you're going to see this. They've got a couple of massive bodies out there. True, legitimate 320-pound guys. Now, watch them on film. They're big. That's all we'll say. They can plug holes, but we're going to see how mobile they are. Mobile, agile, hostile.
There you go.
I don't know about that. So I looked at their losses, and in their losses, they were held rushing down to like 114 yards, 159 yards. So I'm saying, people, a number to keep a watch on. If we can hold them to say 150 yards rushing, very strong chance I think we'll come out on top. Another differentiator is the kicking game. They do have a very good kicking game. They're 40 out of 42 on PATs, which that's extreme. I mean, that's unbelievably good. 5 out of 8 on field goals. So the fact that they've even attempted 8 field goals is good. Here's where I think they have a problem. And again, these are stats. I don't know the situation and all that. But on the season, they only average 25 yards a punt. So stop the run, make them pass, stop them on 3rd down, make them punt. We'll see what happens.
So what that tells you is either they have a pretty good punter with bad coverage, or just a bad punter and the other team never gets to return their punts. So one or the other, and we're just not sure. Hopefully we'll find out Friday night.
Yeah. Now looking at their roster, Western Alamance, our senior class is not a huge senior class. Very talented senior class, but not huge. They've got a lot of experience. They're listed 19 seniors on their roster. So you think that plays into their favor this year. Obviously, they're going to suffer losses next year. One thing that doesn't play into their favor, again, this is just numbers that we know about, don't know how true it is. They only list 44 people on their roster compared to Western that lists right around 60 on their roster. So we're looking at, if these numbers are right, 50% more depth, quality depth, not counting the JVs that are going to be brought up by both teams, but really legitimately 40 people they can go to. We've got 60. Hopefully we can wear them down and we'll come out on top.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the depth situation plays out. At this point of the game, you would think that it wouldn't account for that much, and with them having so many seniors, typically a senior is a little bit stronger and in better shape than underclassmen, but that's a big difference. 10 players is a big difference, and we're going to bring some JV kids up.
Yeah.
which will give our regulars a little bit more break, hopefully, because we have talented day players that I think will be able to play in the playoffs. So,
and we're gonna have to have some guys step up. Everybody knows that Blake Deathridge had surgery today, and from all accounts, Blake's surgery went well. So, but Blake is done with football at Western Alamance. And what we're hearing, Rodney Wade's going to get the nod at the starting linebacker. Rodney filled in for Eli during the Northern Guilford game. Did a great job. So we're going to need Rodney, and also I think Vontae Yellock will get some time there as well. Britton Smith, if you guys remember, Britton sat out the second half last week against McMichael with a bruised thumb. He went to the doctor, nothing's broken, a couple of strained ligaments or whatever. All accounts are Britton's going to be good to go. So Western Alamance should be, aside from Blake, we should be in pretty good health.
Well, it's an exciting time of the year.
It is.
And just as we spoke last year, our goals are to survive and advance. And we've got a tough first round game.
Yeah, we do.
I mean, these teams are so evenly matched. It's scary. They're different, but they're evenly matched. When we get past this first round, we have an even tougher #1 seed in Southern Guilford.
And I so want to win this game against Rocky Mount because I so am looking forward to seeing what Western Alamance can do against Southern Guilford. I'm assuming they're going to win their game, because that will be really interesting. But let's not go against. Let's not get too ahead. They're going to be playing CBA Cog, but you got to figure they're going to win. Let's just beat Rocky Mount. People, look. Last week was senior night. We had a decent crowd, not a great crowd. We need a great crowd. I know it's going to be cold. I'm going to be cold. You're going to be cold. But I'm going to, well, I can't yell a whole lot, but you can. You got to be there. When the games that Ricky mentioned earlier, the 3 games where we beat Rocky Mount in the playoffs, we had unbelievable fan support. We're going to need it again. So it's Wednesday night. You got 48 hours. Go get ready. Buy you some warm clothes. Get fired up, and we'll see you on Friday night. Take care.